Man, here alive from a Hunters Hill lunch. Got special guests with me today. Unbelievable to have the privilege to chat to a World Cup winning All Black captain, David Kirk. David, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it very much.
I'm pleased to be here.
Yeah, mate, it's unbelievable to get to meet you to start off with. So it's not very often I get to meet number one All Blacks, number two international players, number three World Cup winners. You're on the top of my list now for people I've actually met. So yeah, I'm quite overawed by the experience getting to meet you, and it's quite humbling.
Well, thank you very much. It's great to be here. We live here in Hunters Hill, and our kids played at the Hunters Hill Rugby Club, so it's great to come back and celebrate with a lunch.
Yeah. So your experience, you went into the All Blacks. How old were you when you got into the All Blacks to start off with back in like 83?
23, just turned 23, so 22, 23.
Yeah. So what was the process? Did you have to play ITM, well, what is ITM Cup now? Did you have to play that ITM Cup MPC and work your way through the ranks and show you were good enough to get up there, or were you sort of elevated like with the Wallaby system at the moment? There's like a lack of numbers, right? So you can go from high-level schoolboy rugby into super rugby quite quickly.
Yeah, no, in those days and even today, it's a bit of a grind. It feels like a bit of a grind.
Yeah.
You go from schoolboy rugby into club rugby. You got to play senior club rugby.
Yeah.
Then you got to make your regional province. So I was playing for Otago in those days.
Yeah.
And you play in national provincial championship, as you said. And then you have to go into trial games. So I played for the South Island against the North Island.
Yeah. Oh,
It's
really
a big one. And then there was All Black trials in those days. So you went along to an All Black trial. And so you played lots of games and, you know, lots of exposure, and you got to perform at a higher level.
Yeah.
And then eventually you get selected. So, yeah, I got selected in late 1983.
Yeah. So there's been a big change in the game, obviously, like now 40 years since you made your debut. What are some of the big changes you see now that are different, like that might have been difficult or have changed now in the game, particularly how nines play, like you're a halfback and that stuff, scrum half, compared to what they might do now?
Well, I think the general change in the game is professionalism, as players are much more athletic, they're much faster across the board, particularly in the forwards.
Yeah.
Backs are all bigger than they used to be. And the law changes have led to this, you know, sort of endlessly confrontational game where people run into tackles and they keep recycling the ball. So that's all sort of different. That game's changed a lot. I think actually halfback play, scrum half play, has changed almost the least of all the positions. Probably first five, you know, fly half as well, hasn't changed too much because you're still directing the play. So you're still at the back there, you're still putting the ball in the scrum, you're still getting it out, still passing it. So the skills you need to be a good halfback haven't changed much. Yeah. Whereas the sort of skills and size you need to be a good number 12 or 13 have changed quite a bit. And particularly they've changed for say, in the forwards, the props. Yeah. You know, you've got to be mobile, you've got to have good hands, you've got to be able to, you know, clean out. You know, but for halfbacks, I think it's still just doing that good old job, kicking, passing, running. Yeah.
So it's very prestigious to be the very first captain and player to hold aloft the William Webb Ellis trophy. So it must be a great degree of honour for you, and being the first All Black captain too to do so back in 1987. Yeah,
it's very much so. It's become more a thing over the years, really. You know, at the time it was like, you know, World Cup, great, you know, pick it up, hold it up. Yeah. Everyone got a World Cup medal, but now, you know, mine was the first ever, and there's been like, you know, hundreds given out. So it's nice, and yeah, I feel good about it. But I don't let it define me. You know, I've just got on with my life. Yeah. Like, you know, that was a great period of my life, and I was lucky enough to be in the right place at the right time. Great team, we won well. Yeah. But you know, then when that's over, you move on to the next thing.
Yeah. So the All Blacks have had some exceptional halfbacks come through in the time too. I've heard Andrew Merton speak, and he shoots down what he's done in his 70 or 74 tests or whatever he played. Says, it's the least successful All Black half out there and all this, but I think he's downplaying that quite a lot. Him, Justin Marshall, Aaron Smith, they're exceptional players who come through in the same role. So what did you think of, like, because the game had changed then too, as it become professional, you were playing in an amateur era as well?
Yeah, I mean, New Zealand has actually consistently turned out great halfbacks, and almost not quite as consistently, but they've turned out really good fly half. So Andrew was a fly half, first five, we call it New Zealand, first 5A. So, yeah, and we had Dan Carter, of course, who's probably he's the Uber. Yeah. He's the guy. He's just a great player. But the halfbacks have been consistently good. Yeah. And, there's a lot of things you need to do. You need to be able to kick well, particularly in the modern game. Halfbacks kick as much as ever.
Yeah.
Running, there's not as much running from halfbacks now. You can run a bit from set pieces, but they don't run from rucks and mauls as much because all the defences are lined up and no one goes into the rucks and mauls. In my day, of course, everyone piled into the ruck and maul. So, well, there's a big gap here. I'm going to run.
Gaps,
I can pick gaps. But, I think, what New Zealand is sort of renowned for as well is like we adapt our style of play to the rules or the changes, and as the game moves on, we move on with it, and sometimes we're actually creating the new style. So, while we've produced good halfbacks, and as you say, Aaron Smith's been just a fantastic halfback. Justin Marshall was great back in the day.
Yeah.
All different though, Justin's bigger, slower. Yeah. Aaron's fast, quick, and great passer. Yeah. So, teams adapt to the available talent.
Yeah. So do you think there's a bit more need at the moment for like running halfbacks, or do you think they're looking more for distribution than that? Because the game has changed now, right? It really work very structured on pods, and they play less off the cuff like you probably would have done in the 80s.
Yeah, everything was off the cuff in the 80s. But no, I think that the most important thing for a successful halfback, or to help the team be successful, is distribution, quick passing, getting the ball away quickly. And because you can see that they now started to talk about 3 seconds. An X% of time the rucks take less than 3 seconds, but that's all very well. The ball's available to the halfback. It's got to be gone quickly.
Yeah.
But there's no way any halfback can be successful at the top unless they have all the skills.
Cleaning the ball out.
Yeah, you got to run, pass, kick. Basically, you got to do them all and tackle actually. Yeah. Still for me, clearing the ball, distribution, speed, accuracy, that's the most important.
Yeah. Now, in my opinion, you played inside, probably the second best number 10 in New Zealand. It's hard to say the best because I think Dan Carter is close to probably the best player in the world, maybe ever produced. But Grant Fox, he was an exceptional player, had an exceptional kicking game, and changed the way the rugby was played at the time too, in like the strategic kicking into gaps on the field, and then use of penalty goals and kicking and all that sort of stuff as well.
Yeah, I think with Grant, I played with him a lot. I played with him in Auckland. I played with him for the All Blacks. The thing about Grant is he's like OCD type of guy. He's very obsessive compulsive disorder. Yeah. Very super accurate, super specific in what he wants. Yeah. I want the ball here, not here. Everything was very specific with him. Yeah. And that meant he was very accurate and precise in what he did, in calling moves, and his kicking and his goal kicking, and that was a next step in terms of playing to patterns in those days. Nowadays, as you said, there's pods and patterns and requirements and stuff. Yeah. But for in those days, it was pretty off the cuff. He structured the game around him a lot. He had to have the ball and he had to decide what to do. Yeah. But, we and that flowed off into the rest of the team. Yeah. So one of the things that I think that team I played with, All Blacks in Auckland at that time, did better than any other teams was have multiple plays in mind. Yeah. And Grant was really the centre of that. So it wasn't, we have a scrum, I pass him the ball, he passes the ball to the inside centre takes up. We do this, then we go back to the blind side. It's like 5 or 6 steps. Yeah. He was that guy. Yeah. And that really did change the game at that time. Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you a tough one, Rock, because you play with a lot of good players. But who do you think the best player is you played with, and who do you think the best player is you played against?
Well, you've got to sort of define the best player. Yeah. So, some there's just like freakish talents, and Michael Jones is a freakish talent. But the players that another way to define it would be the player you'd most want to have in your team in a tough situation, competitive, really good at their position, physical. Someone like Sean Fitzpatrick would fall into that. Yeah. Grant Fox in terms of just being that clinical person. So there's a lot of ways in which you can do it. Dan Carter in any team, because he's just a super talent, and he executed really well. So that's I'm just stuck with the New Zealanders there because I know them. Yeah. And the toughest players to play against, in halfbacks, I'd say Nick Farr-Jones was up there because he's big and he used to hustle and all that sort of stuff. And he was good himself. As a halfback, you want to watch the other halfback. You don't want them making a break. And so he was always doing things. He was always active. So I think Nick was tough. to play against. It was just someone to admire as a competitor.
Yeah.
Lots of meathead players that smack you down when you just after you've passed the ball to someone.
Yeah.
So just in terms of physical toughness, there's just too many to count.
Yeah. So you had some tough props in the team coming through too. You're playing with Richard Lowe. Did you play against him in MPC? You would have, wouldn't you?
Yeah, definitely. Auckland, he was played for Canterbury, Auckland, Canterbury.
Yeah.
Played him all the time.
Yeah. So he's pretty uncompromising guy, right? Playing at loose head or tight head prop. So really, he changed how the game, and toughness and everything that there was in the game. Do you think guys like him could survive in the modern game now with like the law variations and changes to tackle heights and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, no, I think people like that would survive, but they just have to adapt.
Yeah.
And he would adapt, because if you want to play at that level, you got to adapt.
Yeah.
He was off the ball. He was just pretty dirty, basically. Remember Paul Carroz's nose?
Drop the elbow on him.
Yeah, after he scored a try.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just completely unacceptable. He would have been sent off, red card, banned for, I don't know, 12 weeks or something.
Yeah.
So, and that meant takes him out and you're lost. But he would adapt. He would definitely adapt. He was a great scrummer. He's a very powerful man, just born big.
Not very tall, was he?
Average height for a prop, probably. Taller than me.
Yeah.
He wasn't like really not tall, but he was not huge. Definitely not a tall prop.
Yeah.
Average prop.
Yeah. So what are you doing with yourself these days over here, living in Sydney?
Well, I've been in Australia for 24 years.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of things since I've been over here. I was transferred over here with my job. Yeah. And I was the chief executive of Fairfax Media for a period. I'm now working with a company I founded with a partner. We're doing technology investment, listed on the stock exchange. It's sort of 270 million fund that we built, so we're doing well.
Not bad for a little backyard.
Yeah, exactly. Not bad for a little scrappy halfback.
So that's pretty good. David, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it today. Any chance to get the opportunity to chat to like a World Cup winning player, particularly captain of first World Cup winning side in 1987, is always a privilege. So appreciate that very much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Absolutely. There you go. So everyone's going to be able to catch this on Duck Media later on, and really appreciate Luke McCormack for helping tee this up today from Hunters Hill Rugby. So keep on ducking, everyone, and I'll catch you all again soon.